Hello, all you cool wildcats and kittens. It's time for another edition of Live from Northwestern. Our topic today is going to be an interesting one for many of you, as it is for me. It's a topic that I know a lot of you are thinking about. It's entrepreneurship and innovation. My name is Zdawczyk. I'm a Senior Associate Director of Admissions here at Northwestern. I've been here since 2003, a long time. I want to give a special shout out to all of my international wildcats out there, as I have been responsible for the international student population here at Northwestern for about the last 10 years. So if you're watching from around the world, I want to say hello. But I also just like to welcome everyone from all over and to our latest edition of YouTube Live from Northwestern. So today I'm going to get started really with introducing you to our guests. Generally, my role will be to facilitate the conversation and then mostly just get out of the way, as we have two experts here with me today. And so I'm going to hand off the microphone for them to introduce themselves, starting with Melissa Kaufman.
Sure. Hey, everybody. My name is Melissa Kaufman, and I am the Executive Director of the Garage at Northwestern, which is a space and community for students like you that are interested in entrepreneurship and innovation while they're at Northwestern. My background before coming to Northwestern is I spent 10 years working in Silicon Valley. So I worked at companies you might have heard of, like Google and YouTube, some startups you might not have heard of, like Polyvore and Lovocracy, and I started my own company, which was an influencer marketing agency for Pinterest and Instagram. Lilliana.
Hi, everyone. My name is Lilliana Souza, and I'm a junior at Northwestern studying computer science in McCormick, which is the engineering school. And I am a resident at the Garage and part of the fellowship that's there, as well as the president of the Entrepreneurship Club, which is a student organization on campus called EPIC.
Thank you both for those great introductions. So it's time to get started. And I think the best way to get started is kind of introducing this topic. It's a big topic. It's hard to spell in some cases, but it's also a lot to understand. And so I think if we could start at the beginning and sort of give us a full definition of what you think about when we say the words entrepreneurship and innovation, what does that mean to you? Melissa, maybe let's start with you.
Yeah, so let's start with innovation. In general, both of them to me mean new ideas. So new ideas, new ways of acting, new ways of thinking, new ways of being. Entrepreneurship is usually more specific to business endeavors, but innovation can obviously be a lot broader. That can cover inventions, or it can also cover businesses. It can cover new organizations, nonprofits, for-profits, art projects, etc. So taken together, I think when you hear those two words paired together, you can just think of anything that's new in this world that doesn't exist today that you might have an idea for that you want to bring to reality. How about you, Lilliana? What do you think?
Yeah, that's exactly on the same page as what I was thinking. I was going to answer creative problem solving. So if you see a problem in the world and you solve it using, critical thinking and creativity, that's what like entrepreneurship and innovation is to me.
Great, thank you. Now, I think with that in mind and the way you've described it, I think one of the things, even for someone like myself, I'm an admissions officer, but hey, I have some ideas. I'd like to be creative. Is the idea of being an entrepreneur, good for everybody? Who can be an entrepreneur? Is that something that anybody can try?
Yeah, so a great definition that Lilliana and I both heard firsthand in the fellowship that she's part of. We met an entrepreneur from Australia that talked a lot about how entrepreneurship, a lot of people wear it as an identity, but for him, he really felt that entrepreneurship was an activity. So it's an activity that literally anybody can do. So if you are in the process of creative problem solving, like Lilliana said, coming up with an invention, a new idea for something, maybe a new way to do admissions, Erin. Those are all ways that you can be entrepreneurial. And I think anybody can be an entrepreneur or an innovator. I think everybody should. I think that what we're seeing right now with the global pandemic is that there's so much room for innovation and creative thinking and problem solving. And that's part of one of the wonderful things that makes us all human is our ability to do that. So this is a wonderful time to embrace trying something entrepreneurial, trying to solve a problem that you see in this world.
Lilliana, would you say that in general then, when you think about your experience at Northwestern, and kind of the wide variety of students we have here across 6 different undergraduate schools across the graduate programs, professional schools. It seems like a pretty wide just ecosystem to be in. And so have you kind of encountered that creative environment from students from all parts of the university?
Yeah, so you wouldn't expect it, right? You would think that maybe just like the econ majors or something like that would be the ones who are involved in business, but it's the complete opposite. Like every day in the garage, I encounter people who are more into art or music or are in Benin or are in the arts and science school studying philosophy, or it could be really anything. And that's something that I really, really like. Not only do we have a diversity of gender and race in the garage, we also have a diversity in school and major and hobbies and skills. And that's what makes it like so innovative, because if we just had all the same kind of person, we wouldn't be able to do these awesome projects. And like, I can speak firsthand that I come from a low income background. So it really doesn't matter where you come from or if business was talked about in your home, or maybe you come into college not really knowing anything like I did. You can grow by learning from immersion in this like amazing hub for entrepreneurship and innovation. And so there's definitely students from all walks of life, and it's for everyone, no specific type of person.
Yeah, I think I can add, the garage is 5 years old at this point, and I've really seen an evolution in the 5 years that I've been at Northwestern, getting the garage off the ground in how it, the ethos and mentality of entrepreneurship and innovation has really permeated the entire campus. So you're finding students, like Lilliana said, in all of the different schools at Northwestern, some of whom choose to come to the garage to work on their projects, but others that pursue those ideas in labs, doing research, in classes that they're taking, or just inside projects that they're working on with friends, in a dorm room or off campus. So it's really everywhere. And it's been really fun for me to see Northwestern go from a little bit more of a traditional school to really a school that the culture embraces innovation, which has been really fun for me as an entrepreneur.
Are there any particular skills that you'd have to have just to start as an entrepreneur, as an innovator? Is there anything you got to really bring to the table? And we know it can be kind of from any background, but is there just that one thing that you have to have as you start your career or start your sort of passion as an entrepreneur?
No, I mean, the analogy that I'll often use is that, entrepreneurship and innovation is a muscle. So it's like in the same way that you would go to the gym to work out if you wanted to build bigger muscles, if you want to be an entrepreneur and innovator, the best thing you can do is to do it. So I think a lot of students get stuck in ideation or coming up with ideas or thinking about how they might get something off the ground. Really, the best way to learn this skill set is by doing. And it could be applied literally to anything, like anywhere that you see a problem in this world, that's a great place to get started. So don't look for where you think you're going to make the most money. Look for where you think you can have a great impact in something that you're really interested and passionate about, and just get started on it. Like, Lilliana was saying, like, it's a diversity of backgrounds, but also just a diversity of mindset and how you tackle problems. And then finding other people that are also passionate about your idea to come together to solve something that you see. Lilliana, would you add anything to that?
I was going to add that just having some sort of passion or interest in it in general, maybe you're just wondering what it is. It doesn't even have to be like, oh, I want to start a company, but that little inkling is enough to like start a fire once you like dive into the world, because that was me. I really didn't have this giant like passion to be a business person. I was like, that's not really for me, but you catch the bug as soon as you have like a passion. And so if you just come in with that kind of willingness to learn, it'll take off. Yeah.
Thanks, Jabeth. I love that idea of the muscle and working out your entrepreneurial skills. So I think that's great. That's great. And so I think that answers some of the questions, like Ada, who asked the question about, having prior engineering or coding experience. That's not necessary. You can really kind of come with just that passion, that creativity, and don't get stuck at the sort of front door with just that idea. So I think one of the things that students will want to know is, again, it seems, like you said, it can sound almost intimidating to get started. And so I think getting started seems like a good place to start for us in the conversation. Do you have to have, money to get started? Do you have to have something kind of coming in, or do people kind of come in different ways to the idea of entrepreneurship?
Yeah, Lilliana touched on this a little bit, but there is no prerequisite at all. You don't have to be a coder. You don't have to have started a business in high school. Some people have, and that's great. We have the resources to support them. But even if you're starting from zero. There's a lot of great classes you can take. I think that's a great place to kind of build your foundation. Lilliana can talk to some of those classes. She's taken some of the intro entrepreneurship classes, but I was shocked to learn in one of the intro classes, I think that started last week, students were asked to name 3 entrepreneurs. And a lot of students like really struggled to come up with 3 names, like just showing like, so that means like students are really starting from nothing, and that's okay. I think that even if you don't even know what an entrepreneur is, or maybe you know a lot, like there's students everywhere along that spectrum, and so we welcome you. We'll meet you where you're at, and we can help you do everything from be able to name 3 entrepreneurs all the way through to going out and raising $1 million from a venture capitalist. Like we can help you with all of it. Liliana.
I touched on the learning through immersion, and I think that that's really where I got all of my knowledge from. The Farley classes, which is the Farley Center for Entrepreneurship and Innovation, is housed in McCormick, but any student can take entrepreneurship classes, and there are really basic intro ones. I'm a TA for one because I took it my sophomore year, engineering entrepreneurship, and it really changed the way I saw entrepreneurship because I was able to step by step kind of learn the process of starting a company from the ground up. And yeah, there were terms maybe I didn't know. I had to go home and look them up, but that's kind of the fun of it. I never felt left out. I never felt like other people were ahead of me. And that's something that's really great about Farley itself. And also the garage is you can go in not knowing a lot and then come out knowing so much. Another place for like getting started other than enrolling in entrepreneurship classes, which is a great way to start, is our club, Epic. So the garage sends some of the newer students to Epic because we host workshops almost every other week during the quarter when we are on campus. And it's really fun. We have food, it's on the weekends, we bring in speakers, we bring in student entrepreneurs to give panels, we do workshops on networking or ideation, brainstorming, all the fun stuff. So if that's a place that you want to start before you're building your own company to get into the garage, that's definitely a place to go.
I'll add that there's a couple other student groups that I encourage you to check out. So Epic is a great one if you know that you have an interest in business or entrepreneurship. If you're interested in social impact, there's a student club called the Global Engagement Summit, which we've seen a lot of students go through. That student group also happens to meet at the garage on weekends, but they put together a summit where they bring a group of people together from all over the world that are, or they used to. We'll see what they do now. Maybe they'll bring them together over Zoom to bring social impact entrepreneurs together. Design for America is also a student group that maybe you guys have heard about. It's now a national chapterized student organization that actually started at Northwestern. So a lot of the students in that program are more interested in design or making service design or building physical product. And then there's also ISB, which is over in Weinberg, College of Arts and Sciences, that's a little bit more like business focused. They have a couple different subgroups in there. Some are more technical and some are more business focused, but that's another student club that you could check out when you get to campus.
I forgot also to add the Siegel Design Institute in McCormick is another center for like innovation. There are some major classes that come out of there, but also anyone can take them. So you can take classes in design and innovation in the Siegel Institute as well.
Thanks. These are great resources. I think there's a good point to maybe step back and address kind of the whole ecosystem like you're talking about. At Northwestern, I think one of the things that students will find surprising is kind of, again, this robust entrepreneurial sort of lifestyle that exists, and it's not tied to just your academic program. And in fact, maybe if we could just back up and sort of talk about kind of the big areas of where someone will be connected to entrepreneurship and innovation. And you've mentioned already student clubs and organizations. We've mentioned the garage, which is a physical space. We've mentioned the academic program a little bit. Is that kind of covering it, or is there some other areas? Like, how would you kind of see the full ecosystem of entrepreneurship at Northwestern?
Yeah, I mean, you'll find it's an ecosystem. So there are bits and pieces of it all over campus. I think two of the other things to mention, just to know that these exist, is that there's a place in the Medill School of Journalism, which is called the Night Lab, that's really focused on media projects and innovation for media and journalism. So if you're thinking about being a Medill student, that's a great place to start. We Northwestern also have a campus in San Francisco. And some students will go out there as part of an immersion program. Others will go out there for like a week-long trip, kind of field trip. But that really is an opportunity. You can think of it like a study abroad, but you're staying in the United States. And really your study abroad is in Silicon Valley and the Valley culture and startups and technology. So if that's something that you're interested in, that's also a great resource that's part of the Northwestern ecosystem. I hate the word ecosystem, network, resource list.
I like the word ecosystem. So as a student, if you want to be involved in entrepreneurship and innovation, it can really come from all aspects of your life. So we mentioned the academic, we mentioned the extracurricular, which are the clubs and the garage. I would argue that there's also like a social aspect, which is one of my favorite parts, because I always tell Melissa, I have found my community in the garage. So some of my best friends have come out of there just from us working there together. They're not working on the same thing as me, but it's a space where we get to meet and be friends, and we have speakers who come. So that's also kind of a social engagement. We have like dinners and stuff that are part of being a member of the garage. And so it really becomes a family. So entrepreneurship and innovation on campus, many would argue, is part of a family, not only in the garage, but in lots of those other groups that we mentioned. And so it's a great place to find friends and people that you'd want to work on future things with, and really just hang out. And so it's a great part of it too.
Thanks, Lilliana. This is a question, I think, for you, related to what you've just been talking about. If you're finding these friends in this social network, how much time are you typically devoting to entrepreneurship in a given week, month, quarter? How does this sort of fall into your general schedule? That's something I think people would be very interested in. Some combination, like you're saying, maybe of class and not class. But yeah, how does that sort of take shape for you?
So it's definitely different for every single student. There are some residents in the garage who are in there like long into the night because they are actively running companies. And then there's people who are just starting out and maybe just going to a couple events, a couple hours a week and doing things. I fit somewhere in the middle of that. You guys all know, if you've heard of Northwestern, we say and is in our DNA. So like the students here like to do a lot, and I'm included. Melissa can attest, I love being involved in lots and lots of things, and I kind of thrive on that. So I definitely spend several hours a day doing, whether it's different events, or it's running my club, or it's working on my own startup idea, or it's being part of some of the programs that I'm in for the garage, as well as I actually have an internship in entrepreneurship. So I spend kind of my working hours also doing entrepreneurship. So it's kind of an anomaly, but I definitely spend, whenever I'm not doing school and not doing my own social or leisure activities, I'm definitely thrust into the world of entrepreneurship, but I wouldn't have it any other way. So there's definitely a spectrum, and everyone can decide for themselves how much you want to put in or learn or devote yourself. And that's something that's really cool. It's not frowned upon if you just want to spend an hour in the garage and maybe go to a couple workshops, or maybe you want to be the all-nighters in the garage. It's really up to you.
Yeah, Melissa, could you sort of add to that from your perspective as watching all of these students and kind of how you've sort of seen people interact and come in and out, not only as students, but I guess ultimately sometimes after they finish at Northwestern. It's been around a little while now. So just kind of thinking a bit about what it takes to kind of be an entrepreneur or kind of go into some of these, come up with, work on your ideas.
So I'll go back to what I said at the beginning, which is I think that this is the most important skill set that you can learn while you're at Northwestern or wherever you decide to go to college. Just being able to think creatively and so-called out of the box, or come up with new ideas, or be the kind of self-starter who goes out and can find problems either in an organization that you're working at, in your community, in a business, is just really an important thing to have. And we see students engage in different ways at the garage and across Northwestern. So it could be as little as you spend 15 minutes a week reading, listening to the podcast, How I Built This, which I love. It's a great starter if you're new to the world of startups and companies, all the way through to, we have students that are basically working 40 hours a week or more because they are running a company while they're in school. We provide resources the whole way along that spectrum. I think it's kind of a, entrepreneurship in general is kind of a choose your own adventure. So it's all about getting the resources that you need for where you're at. I'd say anybody can be an entrepreneur, but to be a successful entrepreneur and run a real company, you have to really be able to put in 100%, 110% probably, in addition to doing academics. So it's definitely not a path for everybody. But I think that, I've seen lots of students who have tried an entrepreneurial project or taken a class along the way who have even said, like, I hate entrepreneurship and innovation. Like, I don't like this. And that's just as important thing to learn while you're in school too. So I think that those students will go on to be better, if they choose to be doctors or lawyers or business leaders or politicians. It's just a great skill set to help them navigate and innovate wherever they are. I'll get off my soapbox now.
Now that's what we want to hear that here today. That's great. And I think, again, it's going to be such an opportunity for students who come to Northwestern to participate in this environment. What about thinking a little bit about both of your experiences, maybe just some personal or specific examples of projects or of things that you've witnessed, you know, some of the more exciting things that have come out of that entrepreneurial space at Northwestern in the last few years. That'd be something I think people would be very interested in knowing kind of how their fellow Wildcats have succeeded or tried in this environment.
I'm happy to add to and give examples of student projects I've seen over the last couple of years, but I do want to brag a little bit on Lilliana's behalf, because for the past couple of years, there's been a school-wide competition called Improve NU that's hosted by student government. And they have a bunch of prize money, and they bring together a bunch of administrators and faculty from across campus to judge it. And last year or 2 years ago, 2 years ago, Lilliana was the first place winner. So do you want to tell more? And this was, again, like, I don't think you're turning this into a business, but you saw a problem on campus, you pitched it to the administration, and you received thousands of dollars to execute this idea. Can you tell everyone a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so not this past February, but the February before that, Improve NU, which is an amazing competition that the administrators actually want to hear the students' ideas of how to make the school a better place, which I thought was an amazing opportunity for us, because not all administrators, I thought, listened, but they actually really want to hear everything that the students have to say. So it was super awesome. And a problem that I saw that I wanted to solve, like I said, the creative problem solving, was that in orientation, we didn't really go through anything that had to do with safety. And there were lots of orientations that I had like seen around the country that did go through programs and stuff like that. And I felt like the freshmen could benefit from leaving home and then understanding that safety needed to be taken into their own hands. So I pitched a campus-wide safety initiative called Empower You, like NU, Empower You. And I actually won. They gave me $7,000, and I pitched that we would give each of the incoming students a personal safety alarm, which puts off a 90 decibel alarm sound when you pull the chain if you're like ever in danger. And that came from a Florida family who produced these after their daughter was saved before she was trying to be kidnapped, which is really unfortunate. But so we gave these to the students, and I did a whole presentation and gave them resources all about how to stay safe on campus, how to stay safe in rideshare, how to be aware when you're walking around, all these really important things. And I implemented it last September, which was really amazing. And the administrators were just so fun to work with, and they really liked hearing students' ideas. And that's something that just made me love Northwestern even more.
Amazing. Oh my gosh, that's so great, Lilliana. Congratulations. And again, that's just one of the, many great things coming out. And that's something that I think students can aspire to as they look ahead to their time at Northwestern. Related to that, I guess, student Pratham wanted to know sort of who mentors or guides you. What's sort of that piece of the puzzle, I guess, if you feel like maybe I need a little help, or I need a little bit of guidance in this, and, you know, I have these ideas, I have maybe some classmates that I'm working with, but how does that process work with supervision or with guidance, mentoring?
I can talk to kind of the big picture for that, and then Lilliana can give maybe a specific example from her projects that she's worked on. So one, you can always turn to if you're taking an entrepreneurship class, your professor is a great first place to start, or the TA for that class. Often the TA is someone who's taken that class before and is probably involved in the world of entrepreneurship. I know Lilliana, who does it all, has also been a TA for some of those classes. I would always encourage students, like, if you're just at the ideation stage, bouncing stuff off of your peers is a great place to start. They'll just, maybe they're thinking about it differently or have a different perspective and can help you think through things. Once you move on to having actually something that you're working on, maybe you have like a minimum viable product, you've built something, you have some kind of initial data that says that this might be something that you want to be working on. If you bring it to the garage, we can help find a mentor to help guide you. And it depends on where you're at and what kinds of things that you're struggling with. But some of the first problems that students will face in setting up a business is legal problems or accounting issues. So both of those are usually very expensive, but we find attorneys and accountants who will do free office hours with students. So you can meet with them, ask them a question specific to your business, and get help in that regard. If you are struggling with business specific, like industry business problems, maybe you're working on like a medical device, which, like, in my background, I've always done consumer technology products. I don't know anything about medical devices, but we have a number of mentors that we work with at the garage who are experienced professionals who have either started their own medical device company or have worked for a big healthcare company, who are happy to talk with you on either a one-off basis or a regular basis to help guide you. And I think the most successful students often surround themselves themselves by a couple of different mentors, maybe a professor, maybe someone that they met through the garage or otherwise, and then people that they've maybe met going to events and networking. But I'm curious to hear who Lilliana had advised her on her project.
Yeah, so from my perspective, one, Melissa has been an amazing mentor to me. She really does take every student under the wing like that comes into the garage. So she's like an amazing executive director to all of us. But other than that, I have found an amazing mentor in my professor who I originally took that intro to entrepreneurship class with. And a lot of the professors will take you under their wing if they see that you are really passionate about it and you make friends with them. These professors are usually adjunct professors who are in the real world being entrepreneurs. So making friends with them is one of the most invaluable things that you can do, because that relationship can carry far into like your postgraduate life. And then on campus, part of me being a resident in the garage, you're required to have a mentor. And so you get matched up for that. And then I'm also part of a program that we'll probably talk about later for female entrepreneurs, and you get a mentor for that. So it's really, you never have a lack of mentors. And even if you're not part of the garage, there's mentorship in the engineering school or in Farley, which is that entrepreneurship center. So something I think Northwestern values in its core is mentorship, and there's ample opportunity to like sign up for this mentorship program or that one. And all they want to do is help you. And that's something I found so valuable in my experience, because there's always someone that I can ask a question to, or someone to look up to inspire, to give me like a path. And that's really been helpful to me.
Thanks. It sounds like, again, any student who gets involved is going to have, that support, going to have those opportunities. And that's, I think, so important. And Lilliana, we can say that you've got some fans out here on the chats, people who already want to work with you, know about your projects. That's pretty exciting. So that relates to a couple of questions. Dylan was curious a little bit more about EPIC. So if there's anything else you'd like to add about that. And I think related to that, Ada was asking, for organizations like that, is there an application for getting in, or does that restrict people from certain involvement? Kind of just how that process might work. So, if you could address that from your experience, and then if Melissa could follow up with anything else that she would have from kind of the larger picture.
Yes, so I know some of the clubs that we've mentioned, you do have to apply to get in. EPIC is not one of them. It's really like however many things you want to participate in. We do have some programs within, like Melissa mentioned, the week-long trip to San Francisco. We have another that's kind of like a mini accelerator. If you know what that is, it's building a company in 10 weeks. Those are things you have to apply to. But our general membership is for anyone, and like anyone from anywhere. You can come to our workshops, have some food, meet people. And that's one of the things that makes it so unique, is that we really do want anyone to come who wants to be a part of EPIC. And then if you do show that you're like super involved in it and stuff, then you can apply to the more rigorous programs that we have. I do know that ISB and a couple others you do have to apply to, but I don't know if Melissa has more to say about those things.
I don't know anything else about that.
Okay.
No problem. Thanks, Lilliana, for that insight onto EPIC, and to applying and to understanding kind of just what the opportunities are.
Yeah, I will say, Erin, when they get to campus, they'll definitely see lots of flyers or signups at the career fairs, and that's how you get involved with all of these, especially EPIC. We just take down your emails. So definitely go to all the, sorry, not career fairs, club fairs. Definitely go to all the club fairs that you can, because that's how you see all these clubs and get invited to them and start going to workshops and see what you like best. And that's your first step.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a great idea. Like, so students who will be starting their Northwestern journey, maybe that's a good point. Physically, where is the garage as a space, and kind of how would they find it? That's something maybe Melissa can talk a little bit about. And just, it's okay to just show up without an appointment, or when could they come as first-year students?
Yeah, so in normal circumstances, the garage is open Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. till 10 p.m. Monday through Friday to all students. So you can just walk in the door and you can sit in our cafe space, have a free coffee, just hang out. We also do an event during, we'll see what happens this fall, but if Wildcat Welcome happens the way that it usually does, which is a week that all the freshmen come to campus. Everything's a Wildcat. I forget like which one's which. Wildcat Welcome is for the freshmen. When you get to campus, there's like a bunch of events during that week. And one of them we do usually a Chipotle burrito giveaway and t-shirt giveaway at the garage, really just to help students learn where the garage is. So you guys should come to that. We are on the very north end of campus. So as you go all the way on, look on the campus map, go all the way up by the gym. That's where we're located. And yeah, we work with, I should also mention that besides all of you are prospective undergraduate students, but the Garage serves all students. So we have graduate students from Kellogg and from the law school and the medical school that participate at the Garage, as well as some PhD students. So it's a really great place to meet people. Some people are maybe a little bit further in their education, that you can get advice and perspective on what's it like to go to law school or medical school or get your MBA. But it's really just a nice like melting pot of students from across the whole campus that are united by the idea of new ideas.
Great, thanks. And I think that's exciting for people to kind of know about. Again, we're hopeful that everyone will be able to start in the fall and be able to experience the Garage firsthand. So speaking of kind of spaces, and I think that's a good framework for just the Northwestern experience, right? It's things don't happen just in one place, and that's how we talked about lots of other programs, and whether it's the Night Lab or Farley or programs like business institutions, they're kind of sort of mixed throughout the campus. But the campus is not the only place for entrepreneurship or for entrepreneurs as it relates to Northwestern. So could you speak a little bit to the larger opportunities for students to explore entrepreneurship as it gets a little bit bigger and beyond campus, whether that's in Chicago or connections that you have around the US and the world, and then yeah, just kind of connect the dots there for the students.
Yeah, so I can talk a little bit to the big picture. So I talked a little bit about San Francisco, the campus out there, and the opportunity to either do classes or take a trip out to the Bay Area. The Bay Area still kind of remains the center of Silicon Valley technology in the world. So it's a great place to experience if you're interested in that world. The Garage also does a number of trips and field trips that we do for some of the students in our programs. We've been to New York City, we've been to Austin, Texas, we've been to Los Angeles, where we go and go to startups or see offices or meet entrepreneurs. So those are great ways to get involved. There's other ways to do those trips. I know like the Career Advancement, which runs a couple of these treks to go see startups in different cities as well. So there's lots of ways to kind of explore the broader ecosystem. I think we're lucky in Evanston in that, the campus itself is up in Evanston, so it's a little bit removed from, all the distractions of being downtown. But downtown Chicago is just a short train ride or Uber ride or inter-campus bus ride away. And there's, I would say a young but vibrant technology scene. So it's not the same as San Francisco, New York, but it's a couple years behind there. But there are a ton of startups. There's venture capital firms. There's a main hub of activity called 1871, where a lot of venture capital programs and some of the accelerator programs are based out of. Lilliana has been interning for one of them called Techstars. And yeah, so there's, a great opportunity to get down to Chicago and get involved as well. I know for some students, it feels like a real trek, even though it's only half an hour to 45 minutes away. But Lilliana, do you want to talk a little bit about just your experience of doing stuff in Chicago?
So even though everyone says that the Silicon Valley is the hub of entrepreneurship, I have fallen in love with Chicago's entrepreneurship ecosystem. It is definitely booming and growing like day by day. Everyone is kind of moving here. Lots of big tech companies are moving here, lots of investments coming, and I am a firm believer that it is growing into one of the national entrepreneurship hubs because I just love Chicago so much. So last summer, I actually interned for a startup that was Chicago based, and I absolutely loved it. And that was an introduction for me into all these startups that were in Chicago that I really wasn't aware of because I was a transfer student last year. So last year was my first year here. So now as a third year, I interned at Techstars, which is a startup accelerator. And if you don't know what that is, it's basically you get invested in and you get to go through this program. It's 13 weeks and you get mentorship and all this. And that's really for full-time startups who are trying to make it big. And so I've been lucky enough to be an intern there, and I was actually taking classes in the morning for all of winter quarter, and then at noon I would take the L, which is what we call kind of our train here, and go downtown to 1871, which is the incubator hub that Melissa mentioned. It's in the center of downtown, and I got to intern there. And so although she did say lots of people think that it's a trek, I was so inspired and kind of considered it like a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to be going to Northwestern and then like go downtown. And it's something I'd highly recommend for anyone who wants to get involved and just go into the city. I did not grow up in a city, so it's just like I have stars in my eyes because it was such a great experience.
I love it. I think that's a great just viewpoint for students to understand kind of the day-to-day existence at Northwestern. Again, that you have your campus right sitting there on the lake, and that across the street is Evanston, and you can jump on the train or as Melissa mentioned, take a free shuttle bus from our campus in Evanston down into the city to our campus in Chicago. and that it's that easy, and that way you can be involved. You can have these internships and these connections within the city, and it really is that easy to kind of walk across the street and get going. And so that to have those partnerships, you shouldn't be worried. And it's something that again, any student, no matter the program, can find that opportunity. So I think that's really great. I think that's a great insight. Again, look into kind of real world experience at Northwestern as an entrepreneur. What about other specific programs, maybe that the Garage, or maybe one of the other programs that, Lilliana, you've been involved with, just that are sort of fostering or feeding the entrepreneur environment at Northwestern? Maybe just some specific things like either competitions or travel programs. I know Melissa has talked in past events about the program for some students that got to go to Austin, Texas, and something like that. So could you tell us anything about some of those opportunities?
Yeah, I mean, we do a lot at the Garage, and I don't want to overwhelm you with, so many, just like, you should just know the Garage is the place to go if you're even kind of interested in the world of entrepreneurship and innovation. We have a number of programs. I'll touch on them really briefly for you guys, just so you have a kind of a high level understanding. Any student with an idea that they're working on can come and join what's called our Tinker program. So basically, as long as it's not illegal, we'll work with you. Students can sign up anytime during the academic year. You go through a light application, and then you get kind of acclimated to the world of the Garage and all of our programs. What most students in the Tinker program are looking to graduate up and move up into are called our residency program. And we incubate about 35 student founded startups per quarter. It works out to be about 100 throughout the academic year. And teams usually consist of between 1 to 4 kind of core team members. And the ideas really range. It could be everything from Brew Bike, which is a cold brew coffee company, to Lilliana's Safety Empower You safety device company. We've had students working on like really tech heavy projects like a drone with computer vision on it for warehouse management, inventory management, all the way through to a nonprofit or arts idea. We had a woman at one point that was making it's called Cranes for Courage, and she would, with her colleagues or her friends, would make like little origami cranes and would deliver them to hospitals and mental health facilities that needed a pick me up. So all ideas are welcome, and we try to kind of make sure that we have lots of different types of projects that are in the residency at any given time, so that students can kind of learn from each other and each other's projects. We have a couple of specialty programs as well. Lilliana mentioned the Propel program, which is an opportunity for women students to get up to $1,000 in funding for any idea that they have that they want to work on. We take about 25 women across campus per year, and then they get it's an all women cohort, all women mentorship, leading up to a showcase event at the end of the year to present their ideas. Lilliana mentioned the fellowship that she's in. So she's in a fellowship that we select 5 sophomore students that we think have a high potential for entrepreneurship, and those guys get crazy. Oh, am I still here? Oh, those people get crazy extra opportunities. We took them to LA. We met Gwyneth Paltrow one year. We toured SpaceX, just some really interesting stuff like that. We have some other, during the summer is really different. So during the school year, we incubate a lot of startups, but then during the summer, we work with about 10 teams. Each team gets $10,000. They work for 10 weeks on their idea. And then there's another $10,000 at the end of the summer that students can earn through like a presentation and showcase. And right now at the university, we are running something called Venture Cat, which is the annual student startup competition. It's for students across the whole campus. And it's the 25 most promising student founded startups at Northwestern, both undergrad, graduate, all levels of study. And we will live stream that. I'll plug it here, May 20th. It'll be on YouTube Live, which will be the Venture Cat finals. So you'll see the 5 top prizes, and we're giving away $300,000 in funding to Northwestern students who want to take their startups that they're working on out of academia and work on them full time. I'll stop there. That was a lot.
Wow, that's amazing though. I mean, again, just inspiring for, I think, folks who are thinking about this next, sort of stage in their life and thinking that there's a real opportunity to make it happen. And again, there's an incredible amount of resources to get them moved forward.
Yeah, I think the takeaway should just be like, there's tons of stuff. So like if you're brand new or you have a company already, you're making millions of dollars of revenue, let's say, like we can support you at Northwestern. We look forward to it. I'd say like, if I wanted to back up just a little bit as you're thinking about college and like how to spend this time, I think the bigger idea is focus on things like, it's a great time to explore lots of things that you think you might be interested in. We took students to meet Brian Chesky, who's the founder of Airbnb, a couple years ago, and he had really great advice. He said, coming into college, like you might know like 3 potential career paths that you want to explore or think about. He said, but there's probably really 100 total options that you would be great at. So, your time during college should be spent not just focusing on those 3 things, but figuring out what those other 97 things might be. And I thought that was really great advice. I think that one way to really kind of help you find your path is to, like Lilliana said, start from a place of passion. Like, what are you interested in? What kind of impact do you want to have? What are you good at? What kind of skills do you bring to the table? And just seeing how you can apply that. So maybe that'll take off and become a business that you'll run, but maybe it'll go on and just be like a gift to the school, like Liliana's safety idea. But that's a great way to get started and just kind of think about your path when you get to school.
Another advice I'd like to add to that is it is kind of overwhelming. Like, wow, there's so much to take advantage of at Northwestern, but taking full advantage of everything that like you think interests you is how you're going to find kind of what speaks to you. So there's all these things out there for you, and it's up to you to go ahead and like apply for them and seek them out. And I think that that's something I did right when I got on campus, and that has paid off immensely. So like I just seeked out Epic and just saw what it was. And so now I'm super involved in entrepreneurship, and that's really all it took, was just a little smidge of interest. And if you guys do that, you'll find where you fit as well.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that's a great point. I mean, it can be the first thing you get going as you arrive at Northwestern, but it can also occur at any moment during your career, as you find that inspiration with the people around you. Would you say, Liliana, just some other examples of just your interactions with other Northwestern students as it relates to some of the ideas they've had, or how you kind of even get into a conversation about an idea, just is it sitting around in the residence hall sometimes and just someone has like, something they want to fix or create, or, how's that occurred for you, or how have you heard about it from some of the other people that you've met in the garage?
Yes, so I've heard of a lot of stories of like, oh, this started in my dorm, or we were like talking, and then their roommate becomes their co-founder, and then they like start the company together. Or it's like, because the garage is a workspace, lots of people are there bouncing around ideas, and so many get started there because it really is a place where people are hanging out. Maybe people just walk in, it's like, hey, let me tell you about something I've just been thinking about. And then, so that has happened to me. They'll stop me and be like, do you think I should do this? Like, do you think this is a good idea? Let me pitch it to you. Get on the whiteboard. All the walls are whiteboards in the garage, so you just hop on there. I think it's super cool. It's really like a style of how the school is. That's not weird at all. Everyone is like always innovating, always doing something, always having their cogs cranking with new ideas. And it happens in classes, like when I'm in some of my comp sci classes, or even not comp sci classes, people are always like super excited about something. Maybe they're writing a new song or they're working on an art project, but everyone is super inspired on what they're working on. And that's kind of, I don't know if that answers your question, but yeah.
Definitely. No, I think that speaks to the larger Northwestern Wildcat environment. I mean, that's something I feel like students know and want as part of that creative, that excitement, that spirited atmosphere, positive atmosphere that we have here at Northwestern. And it kind of seeps out into kind of all of these portions and places within the university. And this is certainly one of those best places because of sort of how many opportunities there are. Melissa, you had something to add.
Yeah, can I add that there's a lot of students I think get to Northwestern are overwhelmed because they feel like they don't have an idea that they want to work on. And I would encourage you, there's a couple different ways to, instead of working on your own idea, to work on another student startup idea. So we run an event at the garage every quarter called Startup Matchmaking, which is usually in person at the garage. Teams will get up, do a 60-second pitch, and then you can go kind of talk to them kind of career fair style. You can walk around, talk to all the different teams about what they're working on that you're interested in. In this world that we're living in now, almost all of the resources that we offer at the garage, we've moved to a virtual world. So we'll be doing startup matchmaking even this quarter through video pitches and sharing those with students on campus that want to get involved remotely. So that's another great way. You can also just go to the garage website and see which what projects are currently incubating at the garage and reach out directly to them and just say, hey, I'll do anything, I'll run your social media, or I'm really good at Excel, let me crunch some numbers for you. Startups are always really resource deprived. So anyone who kind of raises their hand and says, hey, I'm interested in what you're doing. There's a startup at the garage right now called EO, which is a campus bike share solution. So some students saw we only had divvy bikes on campus, and they were docked bikes, and students weren't using them that often. So some students decided to get dockless bikes that you can control through an app, and you can kind of geofence where you have to park them, and brought them to campus. There's now 60 bikes on campus. And one of their most engaged team members is a freshman who just came in and said, like, I'll go collect the bikes from around campus and bring them back to get them charged. And now he's super involved in practically running the company. So you never know like what your foray might be into one of these projects. But again, the best tip for if you want to be an entrepreneur innovator is like just get started. And the way to do that is to find somebody else's project you're excited about, like Lilliana's.
Yeah, Startup Matchmaking is how I got involved in the garage and found out what all of it was. So it's definitely like a really good event that you guys should all go to.
Now, one of that kind of relates to, I think one of the questions sometimes people ask is they say, you know, I'm an entrepreneur already. You know, that's one of the things that I've been doing in high school. It's one of the reasons I applied to Northwestern. I already have this great idea. Can I bring that idea to Northwestern versus kind of, again, matchmaking or finding that? What if I've got something going? And do you have any examples of something like that that's occurred in the past, Melissa?
Yeah, I can talk about a student. His name's Vishal Mali. You guys can look him up on the internet. Vishal came in as a freshman and already had a project that he'd been working on in high school, which was he had invented a device that allowed you to harness the kinetic energy on a bike while you're pedaling and provide kind of a smooth current of electricity to power your phone was the first use case. It was a pretty rudimentary idea. He kind of had a prototype hacked together, but showed up at the garage with it. And over the next 2 years, built that out into a company. His co-founder went to school at the University of Michigan. The two of them entered a number of business competitions. They entered Northwestern, they entered Michigan's. They won a bunch of money along the way. And that bike, now their technology, they've licensed it to a company. It's available at a bike that you can buy at Costco now. So kind of the full cycle. And Vishal has, you know, he's a senior now. So he worked on that all 4 years at Northwestern. And now he's moving on and he's thinking about maybe moving to the other side and being an investor, like a venture capitalist, and is maybe going to pursue that after graduation. I think he's somebody who's always like, loves new ideas. I know that during this crisis, he's been working to manufacture N95 masks and get those to hospitals. So he's full of ideas, and I'm sure some of you are too. So maybe where you start's not always where you end.
That's an awesome story. It's one I like to feature when I'm traveling around the world. I like the picture of that bike with the green wheel, and it looks really good. And it's a great story. One thing I think some students are curious about right now is, and Lilliana, maybe you could address this, is kind of the academic credit piece of entrepreneurship at Northwestern. So, and kind of also how that relates to, you know, you're an engineer and you have a major, but you could have a major, a minor, and then still be part of the entrepreneur environment. But how does kind of the credit piece work in terms of some of the academic programs?
Right. So as I mentioned, we have the Farley Center for Entrepreneurship, and what Farley offers is a minor, and it's a certain number of classes, some core classes, and then you can go into the upper level of classes, and that gets tacked on to your major. But many people at Northwestern have like 2 majors and a minor. You don't have to do that. I actually only have a major and no minor, but lots and lots of people do. A minor, you can do a minor in business. We have that, it's more on the financial side. This is more entrepreneurship side. You can do a minor in the design, like I talked about the seagull design. There's lots and lots for you to do. And the best part of what I hear is like, there'll be a mathematics major with like an art minor. There'll be like an entrepreneurship minor, but they're studying math and physics. And like, you know, it's like very different. And that's something that I love because it really is one of the reasons I chose Northwestern, that interdisciplinary key, because that's how I identify, like not really loving just one thing. And so you can do that in your academic credit. You can study what you're most passionate about, maybe pick like one major, but you can expand. Or you could do what I do, where I have one major and maybe I'm not going to fill enough things in to get a minor or another major, but I dabble all over and take all different. I took performance studies and Portuguese last quarter, just as an example, but I'm an engineer. And so I love that Northwestern lets us do that. And if you want to study entrepreneurship, there is a minor for you and you'll get all of the education that you need, which is really fortunate.
Definitely a great example of Northwestern Wildcat, Lilliana. Thank you. You mentioned business. I think that's a great segue into a question that some people ask about. So most students might know that Northwestern does not have a business major at the undergraduate level. We have the Kellogg School of Management at the graduate level, an amazing program. And at the undergraduate level, we have what's called a business institutions minor, and you mentioned that. So that's something that some students could pursue. We have some certificates in Kellogg in managerial analytics and financial economics. Maybe either of you could address sort of that difference between just sort of straight business and entrepreneurship, or is there sort of that connection as well, or kind of how would you sort of see those two terms or areas of study?
Yeah, from my experience, there's a lot of classes in business institutions that could help you if you are planning to run a business. So things like accounting and finance, and I'm not sure what the other classes are, but things like that are kind of building blocks of business that would help you if you're running a company. The entrepreneurship classes are a little bit more focused on how do you come up with if you want to turn an idea into a business, how do you come up with a good idea? How do you make sure that that's a problem that other people have? How do you make sure that the solution is right and that's something you can actually make money doing, which is the key to running a for-profit entity. So that's kind of the main differences, is that I think they're a complementary skill set, but again, it depends on who you are and whether you think of yourself as like, you want to be kind of early stage and like an ideas person, or if you are interested in business from like a later point, which is like running a business. I'll actually mention at this point that there is another student organization on campus it used to be called Student Holdings, Northwestern Student Holdings, now it's just called Student Holdings. They were a student group that spun out of the university, and they run a number of on-campus businesses. So that's another great opportunity where if you're really interested in business, but you don't have an idea for a new business, but you want to get some kind of hands-on operational experience while you're in school, that's a great organization that you can join and run some of the campus businesses.
I also think that the difference between the two minors is not only like that the business one is more skills-based for when you're at sort of a higher level of business, but entrepreneurship classes are not always focused on how to start a business. A lot of ones, I'm in one right now that's entrepreneurship resiliency. And so it's teaching me how to be a better leader and how to get through things like we're going through right now, like the pandemic. I'm reading books about how to have hard conversations and how to be more productive. And so some of them are making yourself a better one. So even if you don't want to start a company, I do think that the entrepreneurship classes are very helpful to just make you a better person. I don't know.
Yeah, that's great advice. I think you're right. So we've got about 5 or 6 minutes left before the end of the hour. I just wanted to again thank everyone so far for their questions, and see if you have any other questions, definitely throw them into the chat as we're here to answer your questions and to again make sure that everyone knows everything there is to know about the Northwestern entrepreneurship and innovation world. We're also going to definitely take this moment to again encourage you to sort of follow the YouTube live channel for admissions. We're really trying to get students to watch a lot of these programs and have the chance again to create a live tour for you eventually. So we're certainly encouraging that, as well as to pay attention to some of the other program that's going to be coming up later this week and next week. So we'll get to that sort of towards the end, but just want to see if there's anything else that you'd like to know. So throw that into the chat. Maybe just something to talk about for a little bit would be just again, Lilliana, in your larger experience, you're an engineer, and that seems like, again, that natural fit, of course, for some of these things, and people interested in the wide variety of the engineering related majors and fields. But just in your experience with friends who are, again, in one of these other schools that you mentioned, knowing someone who's maybe in school of music or communication or journalism, just some examples that might fall along those lines that you've heard of, or again, and then Melissa, if you have any others, just things that again are, just in those different areas. What are some just examples of ideas that might occur to students in different forms of the different parts of the university?
So one of my best friends in the garage, who's also in the fellowship with me, is a journalism major. And it's super cool how she approaches entrepreneurship. And it's a great example of how coming from different backgrounds makes you see it a different way. She sees problem solving as approaching it from like an investigative perspective. So we were teaching students on Monday for our class, and she was explaining to them that when you interview customers, you should go at it as if you're an investigative journalist trying to figure out, like, put the pieces together of why they made this purchase. And I thought that was really interesting because I had never thought about it that way. And she's actually a CEO and has her own company that helps people sleep better. And so that's just one example of like not a non-engineer. She hired engineers to help her for her business, but she is running it as a journalism major. And there's lots of people like that. That's not an anomaly.
Melissa, anything else?
I'm
that you'd
actually,
like to
I'm
add?
looking at another spreadsheet right now of like all the
Yeah.
current teams that are incubating at the garage. I mean, it's everything from a marketing agency to help YouTube influencers, like a sustainable denim brand, a device to help you wash your hands better, a nonprofit that's helping connect students with like nonprofit volunteer opportunities, a new type of like learning platform. There's like an on-campus moving and storage business. There's some medical students that have a vending machine on campus for health and wellness products. So that's just like a small sampling in real time of some of the projects that are at the garage. So I just want to show that there's also the Artists in Residence, which is a group of 9 artists on campus, all different types of arts that have come together, that they support each other and get stipends. So like they're all over the place. I encourage you guys that, you know, whatever you're working on, whoever you are, whatever you're excited about, Northwestern's a great place to come. It's a great school. It's a great place to come explore that stuff. If you're interested in entrepreneurship, like there's so many resources to help you, from student groups to what we do at the garage to the classes. So we hope to see you on campus in the fall.
Do we have any
We
more?
did get, oh, go ahead. I was gonna say, we did get 2 last quick questions before we'll kind of wrap it up for any other last thoughts, but just related more specifically to entrepreneurship minor. One of the students wanted to know, does it have, in addition to kind of that ideation, does it teach some of those basic accounting finance skills? Or again, is that something you'd have to go elsewhere for?
There's actually a class called Entrepreneurship, Accounting, and Finance. And sometimes that's a prereq for some of the upper level ones that have to do with more being really in depth of running a business. So there are upper level entrepreneurship classes that help you run your business, and you have to have that as a prereq.
Great, perfect. And one student, Dylan, also asked again about networking. And I know we've mentioned that a little bit already, some of the matchmaking or some of the other things. But in general, is there any other sort of networking opportunities? Maybe he's you know, possibly thinking also about maybe taking your opportunities to another, you know, into a company or into doing something else, even if you don't pursue just your own entrepreneur idea, kind of a career advancement opportunity. But also, I guess it could be just ones on campus. So Melissa, maybe you could address that.
Yeah, I think when you get to campus, again, like come check out the garage, figure out where it is during Wildcat Welcome, join a student group that has some kind of innovation or entrepreneurship angle. We mentioned a bunch of them here today. And then try to join an existing group an existing startup if you don't have an idea of your own that you want to work on. I would say that those are like the 3 best places to start, and then taking classes as well. So that should give you the great foundation. It'll give you time to kind of acclimate on campus, kind of learn where everything is and what you're working on, and then you can kind of navigate from there.
Perfect, thank you. Any final thoughts, Lilliana?
Yeah, I'm super excited for any of you who are about to begin like your entrepreneurial journeys at Northwestern. It's definitely something I'm super grateful for and like would not have had any other way. And I will like be better for it when I'm outside of college and when it's in the rearview mirror. Like this has been one of the best experiences. And I really feel like it's launching me into such new paths. She talked about the 97 paths, and this is not one that I came into college thinking that I was going to, but now I think I definitely will be pursuing this path when I leave. And so I wish the same for you guys to find whatever it is that is your passion.
You guys should all come find Lilliana when you get to campus. She can help mentor you guys. She'll be a senior, I guess, when you guys arrive.
Yeah, I love helping the younger students. So you can just come find me. I'll be in the garage, just sitting there. So come introduce yourself.
Great. And Melissa, I know you had those final words, but any last thing you want to say before I do some of the wrap up?
No, I'm really excited to meet all of you. I love helping students on this journey, whether you decide that you want to be an entrepreneur or you decide that you absolutely hate it and this isn't the path for you. I really get a lot of joy out of helping students figure out what they want to do in life. I think entrepreneurship is one of those great paths. So I look forward to meeting you all.
Thank you so much to both of you. So I'd like to thank Melissa and Lilliana. These are, again, real people that you'll see on the Northwestern campus or in the Northwestern entrepreneurial environment in whatever shape it takes in the next year. So I just want to wrap things up with some important announcements. One is, if we didn't get to a question, although I think we got to most of your questions, we will be sending out answers to those questions on a PDF for you to follow up on. And so if there's something we didn't get to, we'll be happy to get those answers from Melissa and Lilliana and get them out to you. In addition, I'd like to let you know about some of the opportunities coming up and that we've had previously. So if you haven't already, again, go to the Northwestern YouTube live channel, to the YouTube channel and admissions channel, and you'll be able to see some of the great programs we've already had. In fact, one of my colleagues had a sit down with Melissa and some students in the garage, so you can watch that one if you want to see what the space looks like. We also have had some great programs last week and this week on residential life, on liberal arts, on diversity and inclusion. Just in general about life as a student. So these are things that you can check out right now. Tomorrow, we're going to be excited to present health professions advising. So health, pre-med, pre-health for you students interested in those areas at the same time and on the same channel. So definitely subscribe so you get to be ready to watch this. And then on Friday, we're going to have some really exciting conversations, cat chats with our current students on Instagram Live. So a chance to learn a little bit about arts and entertainment and media and women in STEM. So that's all going to be happening this Friday. And again, we're going to have more programming next week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday at the same time on the YouTube Live channel, along with Instagram again on Friday. So, so much happening for you to learn more about the Northwestern experience and come so that we can come right to you and get your questions answered. So those are the main things that we wanted to pass on to you. It's now 5 o'clock here in Evanston, and we want to just wish you a safe and healthy day wherever you are, or evening or morning, and just to be safe and healthy out there. Thank you, and have a good day, good night, good morning.